Hi guys, my name is Yasmin and I'm so excited that I am back with you and I have a special guest, my best friend.
Hey guys, my name is Yesenia. For all of you who confuse us, it's okay.
So does everybody else.
We're used to it.
So Yesenia actually has a blog of her own. It is, what is the name of it?
It's just my name, so it's my first name that a lot of people don't actually know it, but it's Dulce, which is candy in Spanish. So if you go at Dulce Yesenia Rodriguez, you'll find my blog.
And I will link it down below. But we have come today because we are going to talk about conflict.
Yay!
And what better way to start the video than to see if we're going to have conflict if we don't know these things about each other. So we're going to start off with a challenge. So it is the who would most likely to. And so I wrote questions and then Yesenia wrote hers. So we will see.
Alrighty, I'll get started. So the first question, okay, so the way that this is gonna work is that we'll ask a random question and then we both have signs with our names and we'll just show the sign of who we believe is most likely to do something stupid. Okay, just kidding. Okay, so the first question is, who is most likely to fall asleep in class?
Alright, I don't have mine yet. Alright. Did you flip yours already, cheater? I don't know. Okay, ready?
3,
3,
2,
2,
1.
Why me?
I have never fallen asleep in class.
Well, I just assumed because you were so busy with work that you'd be most likely to fall asleep in class. But I do
tell me
say
that you fall asleep in class.
That is true.
Okay.
Okay, my question is, who is most likely to fart in public?
Okay, I have it. I have it.
2, 1.
Okay, here we go. Okay, my next question is, who is most likely to laugh at the wrong moment?
This is hard, but I'm gonna go with my gut instinct. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Yay! I already got one.
Okay, mine is, who is most likely to be serious?
Okay, go. 3, 2, 1. Okay.
We got one correct.
I have one more.
Okay.
Okay. Who is most likely to be at a reality TV show? 3, 2, 1. There we go. We got 2
out of 4.
5.
So luckily we have no conflict to resolve. We agree on
killed
2. Balance each other. So now that we have finished the challenge, we are going to go straight into the video. So just a quick recap story of me and Yesenia. We have been friends since high school, but became best friends in college, and she started coming to the college age group that I was in at our church here at home. And just as the years have gone by, she's been attending the church for 3 years now.
3 years.
For 3 years, and in this past year, or just I guess in the beginning, we were very unequally yoked, and I think it was just like, our friendship just looked a little differently because I had been a Christian for a while, and she was like kind of coming in, so I was kind of like mentoring her in a sense and giving, like, I guess just like when we would talk and catch up, I was telling her about all the things that I was learning in college and just in the Bible studies over there. But as the year went on, we kind of have become equally yoked, which is great. But what comes with that is a lot of issues sometimes. So this past December, we had gotten in a pretty big argument. But first, I kind of want to talk about what conflict actually is. So conflict is when something isn't right between you or somebody else. So, would you like to continue with it?
The way that I see it is that if you have any friends, like, you'll eventually get into conflict. I feel like it's unavoidable. As individuals, we're all just different. Like, the way we are wired is completely different. So, conflict is just not, like, there's no way you're going to just not have conflict.
Yeah, so
Like,
know
at
that it's
some
normal.
It is normal, and at some point in your friendship, like, it's gonna happen. But I think that what happened with us, and the reason why I personally freaked out so much, and I think you freaked out too, is that I think we had been friends for 4 years by then, and we've never been in such like bad, terrible conflict, and for that reason we just approached it from all the wrong aspects.
Yeah, so I think something that she was sharing before this is that we definitely take like the fight or flight kind of thing. Yeah. And I am the biggest fighter, and her reaction, she flies off to Europe, she flies across the country.
Yeah, so growing up, I think we had different perspectives and just experiences with conflict. So for me, it's like conflict is just bad, which is not. Conflict can actually be very healthy and good for your relationships. But growing up, I didn't understand that. So for me, conflict was like, you have to avoid it, don't get into fights, and if you do, then just ignore it or just admit that you did something wrong or just kind of run away from it. And I think that for the past 21 years of my life, I had been doing that. Like, it's recent that I started learning how to deal with conflict, and it was because of the conflict that we got into.
Yeah, so I think for me, I just throughout college, I have been living with like other Christians, and I've really learned like you can't avoid conflict, you have to resolve it really quickly. And I think at that time, this was my first time living in like a Christian, like all Christian home where we were challenging each other. So at that point, I had already kind of like learned how to resolve conflict pretty well. But the thing is, like, I live in Arizona most of the time, and Yesenia lives here in San Diego. So it was just like it's basically like I was living two different lives in a sense, just because my community over there looks very different than it does here. So when we got in this argument, I was like, well, why don't you want to like resolve it with me? Like, it's so easy. Like, it's just so simple. But we actually did not talk for 2 weeks. And in that time, I think we learned like the three main things to do to resolve healthy conflict is go immediately. And so in Ephesians 4:26, it says, not let the sun go down while we're angry, and confront the conflict as soon as possible. But the thing and the barrier of this is when you're resolving conflict with somebody, and you know your heart isn't in the right place and you're very angry, it is probably not the best idea for you to try to resolve it in that moment, because it can become really personal and you're going to say things that you don't mean. And I think at the time when I had first approached the conflict, I was like not in the best mood and I wanted to resolve it quickly, and I kind of was just like blurting all the things I was feeling, and it wasn't done out of love. I think that's a really big important thing, because like obviously first mistake, I did it over text message and she received it, and I can't imagine how she felt on the other side of just like feeling like completely attacked, and like because I wasn't doing it in love and I wasn't ready to like resolve it, and I just did it kind of like out of anger. And if you want to share the next ones.
So the next point is go directly. And Proverbs 11:13 says that gossip betrays a confidence, and that God dislikes us when we gossip or spread rumors about other people, especially our friends. Like, I feel like God was like so angry at us in that moment. He was like, what are you doing?
Y'all are not mature.
You're not doing it right.
And I think the biggest thing that I think we got when we got a little bit of mentorship is like the three biggest things that you can do when you try to resolve conflict with someone is go to God first, go to a mentor, and then go to that person. And by then you've kind of like already kind of processed it with God and prayed about it and asked for him to just humble your heart and be really patient with the other person. And the second thing is processing it with like a mentor, someone you look up into the church. It could be a youth pastor, someone you look up to, your growth group leader or something, and they can give you some guidance. And so when you go to your friend, you already have God and your mentor conversations, and so it makes it a lot easier to go to that friend. And we didn't do that, so we're telling you that we learned, and if we would have done that, it probably would have alleviated
and I think like going to God and also to your mentors or your leaders to talk about what's going on, like it gives you a different perspective. It really is eye-opening when you tell this story to your mentor, or like you go to it to God, and it's just like eye-opening. Like you start seeing things from a different perspective, not just your personal standpoint, but also like the other factors and like maybe even the other person's, like how might they be feeling, or just different details that you might be missing in the heat of the moment, because you're just thinking of like, this is the way that I feel and this is what I want to do. and just talking to other people, especially your mentors, like really helps.
Yeah.
Opens your eyes.
It was the best thing. And the next thing, going off of that, is go humbly, admit that you were wrong. Which it can be really hard, because when you are heated in the moment, it's like, how do you not get this? Like, obviously I'm right. Like, look at the Bible. Like, it's right there. But obviously, like, nobody wants to hear that. Like, look at the Bible. It says right there that we're supposed to do this. And I think it's like, in that moment, we can't, like, just, like, we have to be really sensitive to how the other person's feeling, and being really humble to how, like, they might perceiving the situation. And since we do handle conflict really differently, I think the biggest thing that our mentor told us, like, that we learned out of our conversation with our mentor, because long story short, we couldn't handle it by ourselves because it was just becoming way too personal. We went to a mentor that we trusted in the church, and we sat with her, and we were told to take a personality test. It's like the Myers-Briggs one. And we took the test, and we learned that we are completely, like, not even the way we resolve conflict, our personalities are completely different. Like, I'm an extrovert, she's an introvert. Like, our just personalities are very different. Like, I am the console is what my personality type is, and she's like the advocate. And so for me, like, I care really deeply about my relationships, and I'm a fixer. Like, I just want to fix things right now, or else I cannot, like, move on with my day. And she takes a little bit more time to process things. So I think it's just, like, being sensitive to not only, like, the way that person resolves conflict, but just how their personality type in general handles things. And I think that really helped us.
Yeah, and I think it's also allowing people to feel their pain and, like, feel hurt. Like, not just to blame them or, like, condemn them for, like, whatever it is that they did, or the way that you're feeling, or the way that they're feeling, but just allowing yourself, and also allowing the other person to feel hurt. Like, I think that's a big step of just, like, taking the time to, like Yasmin was saying, to go and feel, like, right before going into a conversation when you're heated and pissed.
Yeah, and I think it's okay to feel angry. I was reading in what is it, in John 2:14-16, it's kind of like a brief summary. It says, we have a right to be angry. When Jesus went to the temple and he saw that everybody was selling the sheep and, like, basically making the temple to a marketplace, like, he was so angry. So I think it's realizing, like, it's okay to be angry, but don't let the conflict sit too long. Like, as friends, if I were to text her, like, hey, I know we're really heated, but, like, in 3 days, can we revisit this? That'll give at least a timeline, because that's something that we didn't do, is, like, we didn't say, like, hey, by Friday, like, we need to be really intentional. It didn't take us until after a week and a half to be like, hey, on this day, we're meeting with, like, our mentor. So I think, like, when resolving it, like, giving yourself a deadline can be really helpful, or else you're going to let it sit too hard. And so reading, so it says, 1 Corinthians 14-33, it says, for God is not a God of disorder, but of peace, as in all the congregations of the Lord's people. So I think it's just, like, remembering that it's not just that we have to resolve it. It's something that, like, God actually calls us to do, is to be right with the people in the church, and to just, like, be friends and be united, because we are all in one big team. So yeah, it's kind of...
Yeah, and also knowing that when you do right with other people, like, you're doing right with God. Because resolving conflict is something that God calls us to do. So avoiding it the way that I was is completely unhealthy. So I've learned that, honestly, like, when you're having a difficult time with a friend, the best thing to do is to approach it from, like, a place of love and, like, seeking peace, not seeking, like, your own kind of self-satisfaction or, like, what you want from it. I think you were talking about that earlier today, but definitely coming from a place where, like, you want the best for both you and the other person, not just the best for you. Cause
you're trying to better the other person in the conflict, not condemning them or shaming them, like, you did this, but of, like, hey, like, I'm doing this because I love you and I want to better our friendship and not make it uglier.
Yeah, like, do it because you want the other person and, like, the friendship to, like, grow.
Yeah.
Not just because you're pissed and you're like, you suck. Like,
you're the worst friend.
You're the worst. Like, because honestly, like, if you come from that point, I don't think your friendship is going to last very long. Like, I feel like if Yasmin were to come to me from a place of, like, just shaming me, like, oh my gosh, like, you're the worst, I would just walk away. I feel like even when she comes
fight
from,
or
like,
flight.
even if you come from a place of love, I feel like my tendency still, like kind of like, ooh, I need to back down a little bit. and then it takes me a little while, and then I go to you. So if you came from a place of like, you're the worst, I would just never talk to you. So
yeah, and obviously, like, you don't, like, we're never gonna be fully perfect at conflict, and we are still not perfect at resolving conflict, but these are just the things that we have learned and we've been better at, of like being better about bringing it up quicker rather than later.
Yes.
It's like, hey, when you said this, that actually really hurt me. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, like, I won't do that again. I'm so sorry. I didn't know that you interpreted it that way. It becomes almost like a normal conversation and not just like, you kind of just shake it off because you just learn. You know it's coming from a place of love, but when it comes to bigger scale conflicts, those are like the best advices that we can give you, is what we shared in this video. But yeah, I think, is there anything I forgot?
Yeah, I wanted to say something else. So she was saying how we've learned from that experience where we actually, like, it got so out of control that we needed to go to a mentor. Like, there's only been 2 times where we've been in conflict. That was the first time. And the second time was, like, not, like, it was this, like, earlier this year. But it wasn't necessary for us to go to a mentor again.
Yeah.
Which I think, I just wanted to bring it up, just being super real and, like, authentic. Because of that experience, we learned how to solve conflict or, like, approach it on our own. Like, just having a conversation together as, like, grown women instead of, like, avoiding it and then the conflict getting out of control and then us having to go to a mentor again. It was super cool that we were able to do that just on our own.
Yeah, I think realizing too, like, having a mentor there is not a bad thing, and it's not like, oh, you're a child, you can't handle it on your own.
Yes.
Like, no. Like, it is the most helpful thing ever to get a third party perspective, and not just like saying, like, because the second time it was like one of our friends that knew us both, so it wasn't just like, this person did this. It was like, hey, like, we noticed that we like do this, like, what is your like take on it? And something that really helped us is talking about, like, hey, what are our expectations as friends? Like, what do we expect from each other? And like, for me, like, one of my expectations is like that, you know, we resolve conflict in like a good amount of, like, that we're willing to resolve conflict with each other. It's like, dang it. So yeah, I think that's just the biggest thing. Like, if you can handle it on your own, it's great. But if you can't, like, having a mentor there, best decision ever. Like, it is the best thing. And if it comes up again, we'll probably go to a mentor again if something like that happens. But I think we've been pretty good about.
I'll be praying that we won't.
But if it does, we'll be okay.
Yeah, I think that the bottom line is just, like, don't be afraid of conflict. Like, don't be afraid of approaching it, and just acknowledge your feelings. Like Yasmin was saying, like, it's okay to be angry. Like, it's okay to feel upset at times. Just think it through, and you'll figure it out with your mentors and your friends.
Yeah, so it's good. And look, we made it. We are here. We made it through the conflict, and we're surviving.
Get milkshakes after this.
Oh, yes. I have an ice cream coupon that I was going to tell you about.
Where?
Cold Stone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to go get ice cream and celebrate. But if you have any questions, please put it in the comments below. Go to Yesenia's blog. She has a little comment section in her blog where you can ask her questions. And you can ask me questions. This is a topic that I am super passionate about, and I love talking. I really am really passionate about it. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and maybe you will see Yesenia soon again. Adios.